Tensions between the US and Europe have sparked a significant shift in global trade dynamics. Could this be the beginning of a new era in international commerce? Following the US administration's announcement of a 50% tariff on all EU imports, effective June 1, 2025, the European Union has responded by suspending its participation in the Transatlantic Trade Pact. In a notable development, Ryanair, Europe's largest low-cost airline, has threatened to cancel its order for 330 Boeing 737 MAX aircraft valued at over $30 billion if these tariffs lead to increased costs. The potential cancellation of this order poses a significant threat to the U.S. aerospace industry, potentially affecting thousands of jobs and undermining America's position in global aviation. Communities dependent on aerospace manufacturing, particularly in states like Washington and South Carolina, could face economic challenges. In retaliation, the EU has imposed tariffs on various American products, including motorcycles, dairy, peanuts, and jeans. Harley-Davidson, for instance, reported an 11% decline in European sales in 2024, attributing part of this downturn to the new tariffs. Contrary to some reports, U.S. agricultural exports to the EU reached a record $12.8 billion in 2024, marking a 1% increase from the previous year. While some sectors, like agriculture, have shown resilience, industries such as motorcycle manufacturing are experiencing tangible setbacks. Workers and businesses in these sectors may face financial uncertainties and job insecurities due to the shifting trade landscape. Amid escalating US-EU trade tensions, Canada is reinforcing its economic relationship with the European Union. Since the implementation of the Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement, CETA, in 2017, bilateral trade between Canada and the EU has increased by 65%. Canadian exports to Germany alone were valued at $6.8 billion in 2024, with significant growth in sectors like aerospace, advanced manufacturing, and automotive. As Canada and the EU deepen their trade relations, U.S. businesses may find themselves at a competitive disadvantage in these markets. This shift could lead to reduced market share and influence for American companies in key industries. The European Union is actively seeking to diversify its trade partnerships, reducing reliance on the United States. Efforts are underway to establish new trade agreements with countries across Africa, Asia, and the Middle East, focusing on sectors like AI, semiconductors, and digital infrastructure. Analysts warn that if the current trade disputes persist, the U.S. could potentially lose up to $2 trillion in trade with the EU over the next decade. The expansion of the EU's global trade network, without U.S. involvement, may lead to diminished economic opportunities for American businesses. This could result in job losses and decreased influence in setting global trade standards. America's tech restrictions are reshaping the global chip race and fueling unexpected consequences. Could America's tech crackdown actually be building China's next tech empire? Washington's ban on advanced chip exports to China is backfiring. NVIDIA faces a $10 billion plus revenue loss after being blocked from selling H20 chips to Chinese firms. Meanwhile, Chinese giants like Huawei are gaining market share, fueled by domestic demand and government support. U.S. restrictions on chip design software, known as EDA tools, from firms like Synopsys and Cadence, are pushing China to develop homegrown alternatives, threatening long-term U.S. dominance in chip design infrastructure. As American tech companies like NVIDIA lose international revenue, there's growing pressure to cut costs, freeze hiring, or even shift operations overseas. That means fewer high-paying tech jobs here at home. At the same time, limiting Chinese students in U.S. STEM programs worsens the already severe talent shortage, making it harder for U.S. firms to innovate, staff critical roles, and stay competitive globally. China is now building a resilient semiconductor ecosystem led by Huawei's Ascend AI chips, now central to its tech stack. With support from state investments and funds like the Shenzhen Industry Investment Group, Huawei is developing alternatives to banned U.S. components. AI-driven platforms like DeepSeek are accelerating chip development, potentially replacing U.S. software tools in just 5 to 10 years. This, along with massive government R&D, marks a historic shift. As China moves toward full tech independence, the U.S. risks losing a major customer base and critical leverage in global supply chains. This could shrink U.S. manufacturing exports, reduce tax revenues, and trigger long-term job losses in industries tied to chip production, hardware exports, and advanced electronics. That could mean higher prices or fewer choices, as companies pass on the cost of lost scale and market fragmentation. In parallel, a U.S. trade court recently overturned part of Trump-era tariffs, ruling that less than $15 billion lacked justification. However, most Section 301 tariffs, covering over $23 billion in imports, still remain. If re-elected, Trump plans to use Sections 232 and 122 to impose new tariffs on steel, aluminum, autos, and more. Bypassing Congress and escalating trade tensions, tariffs act like hidden taxes. As import duties rise, companies raise retail prices to compensate, making everything from cars to kitchen appliances more expensive. Small businesses relying on imported parts or raw materials also feel the pinch, facing tighter margins, reduced hiring, and in some cases, closures. Ultimately, these trade battles mean fewer choices and fatter bills for U.S. consumers. Right now, the trade war costs American consumers and importers over $260 billion per year in tariffs, driving up prices on electronics, groceries, and more. This revenue helps fund government spending, but the economic burden is clear. High interest rates, rising debt, and inflated prices are straining budgets. Borrowing costs have surged, making housing, education, and healthcare less affordable. Wages aren't keeping pace with inflation. For many Americans, this means living paycheck to paycheck, delaying home purchases, or even dipping into savings. Wall Street is increasingly anxious about a potential downturn. If current tariff policies persist or expand, it could trigger job losses and further squeeze middle-class households.
We're talking about 800 horsepower and 1,250 newton meters from one e-motor.
With just one unexpected announcement, Koenigsegg nearly brings Elon Musk to his knees on live broadcast. A motor the size of a suitcase, yet more powerful than Tesla's entire system. Could this mark the end of the pure electric era? The surprise strike. Koenigsegg moves, Elon stunned on camera. In 2025, as the auto industry obsesses over battery range and smart software, Koenigsegg, a boutique automaker with just a few hundred employees, unleashed two unexpected weapons. An electric motor weighing under 40 kilograms, producing 800 horsepower, and a quad-turbo engine running on e-fuel, packing 1,500 horsepower. Clean, compact, and incredibly versatile. With a quiet update, Koenigsegg dropped a technical bomb right at the heart of the EV ecosystem. And the reaction? Almost immediately, Elon Musk appeared in an internal live-streamed meeting. Gone was the confident CEO with legs crossed, speaking about Mars and AI. In his place stood a subdued Elon, tired eyes, dodging questions about high-performance motor architecture. Pure EVs. Is tech making the green dream obese? Electric cars were once a symbol of a clean future, but the deeper we go, the more contradictions emerge. EVs are getting heavier because the batteries are getting bigger. An electric sedan can now weigh more than a traditional SUV. This doesn't just waste energy. It wears down roads, tires, and brake systems. Then there are the raw materials: lithium, cobalt, nickel, sourced from controversial mines with serious environmental and ethical concerns. And the driving feel? Smooth, but soulless. No roar, no gear shifts, no vibrations. As some have said, driving an EV feels like piloting a moving iPad. Meanwhile, every brand from Rimac to Porsche to Lucid is chasing the same formula. Bigger batteries, bigger screens, but fewer emotions. Koenigsegg breaks the mold. Smaller, stronger, cleaner, dark matter. Motor, a power density. Breakthrough. About the size of a backpack, this motor generates 800 horsepower and 1,250 Newton meters of torque. A figure Tesla needs two bulky motors to match. No complex cooling, no software-based torque splitting, just a compact 38-kilogram mechanical block. The six-phase Raxial Flux design, blending radial and axial flow, enables smoother power delivery, fast cooling, and minimal energy loss. Christian von Koenigsegg held it like a baby. Engineers everywhere were stunned. Quad-turbo engine. Burns fuel, not the planet. This engine doesn't run on regular gasoline, but on e-fuel, made from captured CO2 and renewable hydrogen, meaning no additional carbon enters the atmosphere. At 1,500 horsepower just from this engine, combined with the electric motor, total output reaches 2,300 horsepower, more than a Bugatti Chiron. No fast charging, no winter battery anxiety. The climax, a hybrid system with a soul. While Tesla struggles with 4,680 batteries, triple motor setups, and sensor arrays to simulate real driving, Koenigsegg simply uses one motor and one engine. And when the car accelerates, it doesn't fake engine sounds. It roars for real. Tesla, at a crossroads, keep racing forward or look back. Tesla's strategy once seemed invincible. Superior software, bigger batteries, mass production. But Koenigsegg now reveals a contrarian path, lighter, cleaner, and emotionally compelling. Tesla can't pivot easily. They can't walk away from billions invested in batteries, production lines, and charging infrastructure. They're trapped by their own success. Meanwhile, Koenigsegg needs just a few engineers, a small factory, and one guiding philosophy. No old rules, no herd mentality, just performance. The final question, not for Elon alone, but the whole auto industry. If a small automaker can create cleaner, stronger, more soulful cars, why is the rest of the industry still forcing us to accept cold, lifeless EVs?
Mexico. I'm just notifying John Deere right now. If you do that, we're putting a 200% tariff on everything that you want to sell into the United States.
$400,000 for a single tractor. Yes, double the original price. And the reason? A tariff order from the White House. Before John Deere could even react, the market had already begun to shake. John Deere faces a 200% tariff. At a town hall in Pennsylvania, former President Donald Trump announced a 200% tariff on John Deere machinery imported from Mexico. That means a $200,000 tractor now costs $400,000, an increase that has dealers and farmers alike worried. John Deere responded immediately, stating it was conducting a comprehensive assessment of the new policy and potential countermeasures. Behind closed doors, engineers are crunching numbers because if they fail to adapt, who pays the price? Farmers, consumers, or the entire U.S. economy? What's more, the production lines in Mexico have been saving John Deere tens of millions of dollars each year. Relocating back to the U.S. would not only be costly, but also time-consuming. On top of that, nearly 40% of components in their best-selling models come from abroad, meaning the tariff doesn't just hit assembly lines, but could disrupt the entire supply chain. Impact on farmers and manufacturing. Immediately following the announcement, dealers reported a spike in orders within just a week. Farmers rushed to buy equipment before the tariff took effect. But behind the urgency lies a growing fear. If retroactive taxes are imposed, who will bear the massive cost difference? At agricultural fairs in Kansas and Iowa, the mood turned grim. "We're just watching. We haven't dared to sign anything," one farmer said. And the looming question, buy now to lock in prices or wait and risk doubling your costs. John Deere's strategic response. Facing this sudden blow, John Deere didn't retreat. It shifted into strategic mode, launching three major moves nearly simultaneously. First, the company accelerated reinvestment into plants in Iowa and Illinois, facilities previously scaled back due to high operating costs. Now, despite expensive domestic labor, Deere sees this as the only way to reduce dependence on cross-border supply chains, now a liability under tariff threats. Resuming U.S. production is not only an economic decision, but also a symbolic gesture to regain domestic market trust. Second, Deere ramped up lobbying in Washington, seeking tariff exemptions for key agricultural components like drive systems and smart control units. If successful, the company could maintain stable pricing without sacrificing quality or profit. But this is a long game, requiring political leverage. Failure could send ripple effects across the agricultural machinery sector. Third, Deere began restructuring its supply chain, shifting some production to Canada or other low-tariff countries. This is a global flexibility gamble aimed at avoiding being boxed in by an escalating trade war. Policy impacts and global reverberations. The impact doesn't stop at Deere. Other manufacturers, from Caterpillar to GM, are watching cautiously. Economists warn that if trade tensions persist, next quarter's GDP could shrink. Countries like Canada and Mexico have already responded. The EU and Japan are preparing cases to challenge the US at the WTO. In strategy rooms, analysts are modeling what-if scenarios. If the 200% tariff holds, production costs will balloon. If reduced to 50% on imported parts, companies might catch a breath. As May 15th approaches, pressure builds by the hour. Businesses await rulings, investors sit on cash, and those behind the tractor wheel, the farmers, may cast decisive votes in the upcoming election. Meanwhile, China watches from the sidelines, but not passively. Manufacturers in Shanghai and Guangdong are already expanding their lines, ready to absorb production flows leaving Mexico. Some experts warn if the U.S. overplays its internal tariffs, Beijing could be the biggest winner from this global repositioning. Will the administration ease off or tighten the screws? If this is a test of endurance, it's also a reminder: tariff decisions aren't just numbers. They shape the fate of entire industries. Less than 2 seconds to hit 100 kilometers per hour, over 20,000 revolutions per minute in a motor that makes no sound. Tesla didn't just unveil a new motor. They're rewriting the rulebook of the electric vehicle industry, a breakthrough from carbon fiber and boundary-pushing speed. Tesla's latest motor isn't a minor upgrade. It's a full-on revolution in design. At the core is a carbon-wrapped rotor, a material that is ultralight, highly durable, and capable of withstanding extreme forces at very high speeds. In traditional electric motors, the metal core tends to expand and warp under high-speed operation and constant heat. But with Tesla's carbon wrap, the motor core stays perfectly stable, even under intense centrifugal force and thermal stress. As a result, the motor breaks past 20,000 RPM, a number even elite supercar brands never dared to target. This not only boosts vehicle speed, but also reduces wear and dramatically extends motor lifespan. Faster and more efficient than ever. The numbers aren't just impressive, they're real. Vehicles equipped with this new motor can accelerate from 0 to 60 miles per hour in under 2 seconds. That's faster than nearly every gasoline-powered supercar on the planet. But beyond speed, the real innovation lies in how little energy it consumes to maintain peak performance. This system operates with extremely high efficiency. It converts nearly all electrical energy into movement, minimizes heat loss, and eliminates the need for bulky cooling systems. A cost advantage and mass production. Tesla's real advantage doesn't just lie in engineering, but in scaling that engineering for mass production. The new motor uses fewer rare earth materials, avoids complex mechanical assemblies, and can be produced faster and cheaper than traditional EV motors. Tesla's factories are optimized for this efficiency, from gigacasting to robotics to vertically integrated supply chains. Everything is monitored and adjusted in real time using advanced software and sensor data. While other automakers still rely on third-party suppliers for key components, Tesla controls most of its inputs, processes, and systems internally. As a result, Tesla can not only make a better motor, but also sell it at a more competitive price. While rivals struggle, Tesla moves into the next era. While legacy automakers like Ford and GM are still navigating their transition to electric vehicles, and while startups like Lucid and Rivian struggle to scale production, Tesla is preparing to bring a new technology into mass production. Tesla isn't adapting an old model. They built everything from the ground up for the electric era. Traditional brands often retrofit gasoline vehicle frames into EVs. That adds weight, reduces efficiency, and complicates production. In contrast, Tesla's cars, batteries, motors, and software are designed as a unified whole, from blueprint to showroom. Tesla is more than a car company. It's a global ecosystem. Each gigafactory isn't just a factory, it's a machine that builds machines. From high-pressure casting and non-stop robotic production to real-world data feedback from millions of miles driven, Tesla constantly improves its own manufacturing model.